too, so I'm really sorry. I'm just if you want to move a bit forward. I mean, I know, but
no, they bring in a new media person. So there's special.
where's someone going to say that?
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
We'll try to work. Let me check it.
May release position. Thank you. Hello. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
I think you talked to Peter, whatever it is.
There is a new truck.
Sorry, one second.
There was only a few.
Yeah, I got it there.
Well, it's a problem that
No, I'm not saying that. It's flat. Yeah, there you go.
oh, sure.
Yeah. Does it count? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't.
Exactly.
Like, I just feel bad. I'm just, I mean, I don't think it's like
I'm so used to seeing that.
but we could talk about it. I'm not talking about this.
Yeah.
Wait, so did you go? Oh, by yourself. So.
I keep it wide. That's what. So I'm not going to go.
Which I guess would be the wise
Well, what you doing?
I was thinking of the same thing about this.
So I'm curious just because obviously yeah. And there was no, yeah, so it was like not on high stakes. Yeah.
Once again, because they was live at the White House, waiting for the White House secretary, Kevin, that report is awesome. White House.
Basically said, John, that he cannot consider that an emergency. And so we expect to hear the next steps about that. But just as we were coming to air, this is going to sound repetitive, but it's not. It just keeps happening. Another federal judge here in Washington, D.C. struck down, or at least blocked, some of the executive orders related to tariffs and China that President Trump signed around Liberation Day. And so now those are on hold too. So if you're keeping score at home, basically everything that they've been trying to do here has been determined by various federal judges throughout the country to be illegal in some way. And so they are really making the White House counsel's office earn their paychecks the last couple of weeks. We hope to hear what is next for these tariffs that are now the centerpiece of President Trump's economic agenda, if the tariffs might not be legal and if they wind up going away. How does that affect negotiations? Karoline Leavitt should tell us in a couple minutes. Also, what's next for Doge? We learned last night, once everybody got home, that Elon Musk was beginning the process of off-boarding, so he's not around anymore. We heard him complaining about the big beautiful bill because he didn't think that bills could be big or beautiful, kind of as something that he did not think was consistent with Doge cuts. But at least as far as we know, kind of an Irish goodbye for Elon Musk. He was one of the most visible faces of the administration to date, from January 20th until now, but it seems like he has gone off without a big send-off. Josh? Thank you.
It's the only way.
Do you think that's the last time you're reading?
No.
Is it too bright? No. I was thinking how it's gorgeous. I love this. It's checking.
Oh no! Now you're telling me? Yeah. I mean, New Jersey. I'll find her. Oh well, too late for that. That's fine.
I mean, because I'm sure that's
Not today yet, but I'm just having here publicly.
Just not that interesting.
Okay. Clean.
You're good.
Okay. Should do more of that before we talk to people.
Yeah, that's all I did. I couldn't just do it. Yeah, mine's.
Yeah, right. There's all the rooms on the other side. Yeah. Need to go colonize it.
Hey, did you see my Oh, the same one? Oh, okay. Did you look through the transcript?
Yeah, sometimes it's this is actually relatively.
Which one?
It's a little fewer. I mean, I don't know. Part of it's just likes talking.
So I just for the. No, I mean, I know, obviously, but it's old. Yeah, okay.
You like this? I believe the same.
2 minutes until the briefing. 2 minutes until the briefing.
I used to love it.
Great. Just 6 weeks today for the baby and 13.5 pounds. Okay. I can't really say that my yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
That's my own.
But just
Here she is.
Hello, everybody.
Right up.
How are you? Wow, a packed room today.
Yes, ma'am.
Last night, the Trump administration faced another example of judicial overreach. Using his full and proper legal authority, President Trump imposed universal tariffs and reciprocal tariffs on Liberation Day to address the extraordinary threat to our national security and economy posed by large and persistent annual U.S. goods trade deficits. The United States has run a trade deficit of goods every year since 1975. In 2024, our trade deficit in goods exceeded $1 trillion. Everybody agrees this is unacceptable. President Trump is delivering on his promise to fix this problem, and he has taken a long overdue and much needed bold stance for American workers after decades of our manufacturing base being hollowed out. The president's rationale for imposing these powerful tariffs was legally sound and grounded in common sense. President Trump correctly believes that America cannot function safely long-term if we are unable to scale advanced domestic manufacturing capacity, have our own secure critical supply chains, and our defense industrial base is dependent on foreign adversaries. 3 judges of the U.S. Court of International Trade disagreed and brazenly abused their judicial power to usurp the authority of President Trump to stop him from carrying out the mandate that the American people gave him. These judges failed to acknowledge that the President of the United States has core foreign affairs powers and authority given to him by Congress to protect the United States economy and national security. Congress had created the National Emergency Act to provide the congressional framework to strike down improper IEEPA use. And any questions over whether President Trump improperly imposed these IEEPA tariffs were already adjudicated in Congress following Liberation Day. Congress firmly rejected an effort led by Senator Rand Paul and Democrats to terminate the president's reciprocal tariffs. The courts should have no role here. There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges. President Trump is in the process of rebalancing America's trading agreements with the entire world, bringing tens of billions of dollars in tariff revenues to our country, and finally ending the United States of America from being ripped off. These judges are threatening to undermine the credibility of the United States on the world stage. The administration has already filed an emergency motion for a stay pending appeal and an immediate administrative stay to strike down this egregious decision. But ultimately, the Supreme Court must put an end to this for the sake of our Constitution and our country. With Congress returning next week, it's critical that Senate Republicans maintain the momentum and quickly pass the One Big Beautiful Bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill will truly make America safe and prosperous. The One Big Beautiful Bill includes the largest border security investment ever. That's why the law enforcement groups are lining up to encourage its swift passage. The National Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in the country, just endorsed key provisions of the bill. The FOP president announced their strong support, saying the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is more than legislation. It is a promise kept to the public safety officers across the country and a bold step toward an economy that respects, rewards, and uplifts the people who keep it safe. And the National Border Patrol Council, which represents nearly 20,000 Border Patrol agents, hailed the legislation as well. The group's president said this legislation provides a once-in-a-generation investment in the border security of our great country and will make America safer. The One Big Beautiful Bill will guarantee we can permanently have the safest, strongest, and most secure immigration system in American history. I also want to take the opportunity to debunk some false claims that have been circulating in the press about this bill. The blatantly wrong claim that the One Big Beautiful Bill increases the deficit is based on the Congressional Budget Office and other scorekeepers who use shoddy assumptions and have historically been terrible at forecasting across Democrat and Republican administrations alike. For example, just before Congress enacted the original Trump tax cuts at the end of 2017, the same CBO projected that growth would average a mere 1.9% over the next 10 years. However, by 2019, actual growth had surged to 3.4% once the Trump tax cuts went into effect, exceeding the CBO forecast by nearly 2 full percentage points. The CBO's latest forecast makes the same anemic growth assumptions as they did in 2017, missing the impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill. The CBO assumes long-term GDP growth of an anemic 1.8%, and that is absurd. The American economy is going to boom like never before after the One Big Beautiful Bill is passed. The largest middle-class tax cut in history, massive deregulation, and the most aggressive domestic energy exploration ever will fuel small businesses, further boost private investment, increase workers' wages, and supercharge economic growth. The Council of Economic Advisors has factored in the effects of all these pro-growth policies and estimated in their own analysis that growth will average 3% in the long run after the One Big Beautiful Bill is passed, which is nearly double the ridiculous CBO projection. This higher growth would result in $4.1 trillion in additional revenue over the next 10 years. Between the common sense spending reforms contained in the One Big Beautiful Bill and the robust economic growth that will be generated as a result of it, there will be no increase to the deficit. The same analysis from the CEA shows just how this historic package will unleash prosperity and ignite a blue-collar boom across America. But if the radical Democrats get their way and the One Big Beautiful Bill does not pass, Americans will face a whopping $4 trillion tax hike. This is unacceptable to President Trump. President Trump will not allow Democrats to massively raise Americans' taxes. Senate Republicans must get this bill passed. Failure is not an option. The American people are counting on Republicans to deliver. In other news, despite all the doom casting from the media, Americans are growing more and more optimistic about the economy under this president. Consumer confidence surged in May with the biggest monthly jump in 4 years, smashing expectations. According to the release from the Consumer Confidence Index, the increase in confidence was broad-based across all age groups, income groups, and political affiliations. Our country is clearly heading in the right direction under President Trump's bold leadership. For the first time in history of Rasmussen polling, a majority of Americans believe the country is on the right track. It's unsurprising because the president is fulfilling the promises he made to the American people. Here in our new media seat today, we have the editor-in-chief of The Federalist, Molly Hemingway. The Federalist is led by Molly and Sean Davis and provides fearless journalism and coverage of politics and culture to millions of readers all over the world. Thank you for being here, Molly, and why don't you please kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
In the first Trump administration, there was an effort to stymie the agenda of Trump through the Russia collusion hoax perpetuated by many people in the media, including some people seated here, or the media outlets they represent, and other Democrats as well. The second Trump administration, to reference what you said at the beginning, seems to be subject to an effort to stymie the agenda using rogue lower court judges. You mentioned that the Supreme Court could and should do something to rein in these lower court judges. Also, Congress could do something about it, but they don't seem terribly interested in it. It also seems there's not much of an actual coordinated effort from this White House to take and tackle this effort from judges, Democrats and other people using these judges to stymie the agenda. Is there an actual effort by this White House to tackle this issue in a comprehensive way, and if so, what is it?
There is an effort by this administration to tackle these rogue judges and the injunctions and the blockades that we have faced in our broken judicial system in every case. I mean, we have seen time and time again these lower district court judges ruling against this administration in the president's basic executive authority and powers. And this administration is fighting every single one of those battles in court, including already the block that came down from the tariff court, the IEPA court last night. And as on my way out here to the briefing room, I understand that there was another district court judge right here in Washington, D.C. who ruled against the president's tariff power. And I will get to the heart of your question, and I'm glad that we are addressing this in the room today, because nationwide injunctions ordered against the first Trump administration, Trump 1.0, account for more than half of the injunctions issued in this country since 1963. And President Trump had more injunctions in one full month of office in February than Joe Biden had in 3 years. And let me roll through some of these radical injunctions to paint the picture for the American people at home. These are not just talking points. These are real judges in the court of law who are trying to block the president's power and the policies that he was elected to enact. For example, a court ordered the Trump administration to return already deported terrorist aliens back to the United States. A court has ruled the Trump administration can't even temporarily pause our refugee programs. Courts prohibited the Trump administration from eliminating federal funding for child transgender surgery and mutilation, a practice that the American people overwhelmingly reject. A court also held that the Trump administration could not ban people experiencing gender dysphoria or mental health issues from serving in the military. Ridiculous. Courts prohibited the removal of transgender women from women's prisons despite potential physical harm to real women in those prisons, biological women. A Northern District of California judge issued an absurd ruling that the president cannot fire people within the executive branch without Congress passing a bill, even though Congress has expressly authorized the president through the Office of Personnel Management to authorize reductions in force across agencies. A court also ordered the Trump administration to rehire thousands of already fired employees in several cases. A federal judge blocked the Trump administration from defunding the Department of Education, another signature campaign promise that this president has the power to implement. Courts ordered the Trump administration could not eliminate funding for illegal DEI programs, hence the word illegal. These are illegal programs to begin with, and now the courts are trying to say this president can't roll them back. And a district court judge prohibited the president from issuing any categorical funding freezes. And then another court ordered on top of that the administration makes $2 billion of payments in 36 hours. These are just a few of the ridiculous orders that we have seen from lower district court judges every day, and we hope that the Supreme Court will weigh in and rein them in.
But White House advisor Stephen Miller says it's judicial tyranny. Some people are calling it a judicial coup. You're saying you're responding to each and every one of these actions, efforts by these judges to delay or thwart the implementation of the agenda. But is there going to be anything more than that, or is it just going to let this operation continue, even though it could delay everything for years until the presidency is over?
The administration is operating under the directive given to from the president that we need to comply with the court's orders. He's made that very clear, but we're going to fight them in court, and we're going to win on the merits of these cases because we know we are acting within the president's legal and executive authorities. And thanks for being here. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Question on tariffs, but first actually some foreign policy news, some breaking news. Some local Israeli media is reporting that Prime Minister Netanyahu told hostage families that he's accepted a 60-day truce offer. So can you confirm, have Israel and Hamas agreed to a truce?
I can confirm that Special Envoy Witkoff and the president submitted a ceasefire proposal to Hamas that Israel backed and supported. Israel signed off on this proposal before it was sent to Hamas. I can also confirm that those discussions are continuing, and we hope that a ceasefire in Gaza will take place so we can return all of the hostages home, and that's been a priority from this administration from the beginning. I won't comment further as we are in the midst of this right now.
So to be clear, you don't know if Hamas has accepted it yet?
Not to my knowledge, but certainly if that becomes the case and this ceasefire goes into effect, you'll hear it directly from myself, the president, or Special Envoy Witkoff.
On tariffs, Kevin Hassett earlier this morning, he brushed off a legal ruling, called it a hiccup, and he said that trade deal negotiations would continue. Why would other countries continue these trade deal negotiations given the ruling?
Because other countries around the world have faith in the negotiator-in-chief, President Donald J. Trump. And they also probably see how ridiculous this ruling is, and they understand that the administration is going to win, and we intend to win. We already filed an emergency appeal. We expect to fight this battle all the way to the Supreme Court. These other countries should also know, and they do know, that the president reserves other tariff authorities, Section 232, for example, to ensure that America's interests are being restored around the world. But I can confirm that our ambassador for trade, Jameson Greer, already heard from countries around the world this morning who said they intend to continue with these negotiations. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. So many of the president's plans right now are being blocked by courts. If the courts are going to be the ones who are shaping policy, Does the president wish he would have just become a judge instead?
I think the president would take this job over being a judge, and certainly the president is acting within his authority. He wishes judges would do the same.
But so the courts are basically telling you guys they think that the White House's policies, the president's policies, are in some way against the law. So why can't President Trump ask the Republicans that control the House and the Republicans that control the Senate just to make a new law?
Well, these laws have already been granted to the president by the Constitution and by laws that have been previously passed. I'll give you another example. For instance, we've been blocked in court for the revocation of visas from individuals who have the privilege of studying in the United States of America. Secretary of State Rubio has simply used his authority to revoke those visas, to revoke that privilege, and we've seen the courts try to block that. So if these judges want to be the Secretary of State or they want to be the president, they can run for office themselves. It should be the other way around. But all of the actions the president has taken rely on legal authorities that have already been granted to him by our nation's existing laws.
And on a different topic, there are some folks in President Biden's inner circle who are now in talks with Republicans in Congress to give interviews about how they may have handled President Biden's decline. Is the president satisfied with aides only sitting for these transcribed interviews, or would he also like to see some kind of testimony from the former First Lady, Dr. Biden?
I think, frankly, the former First Lady should certainly speak up about what she saw in regards to her husband and when she saw it and what she knew, because I think anybody looking, again, at the videos and photo evidence of Joe Biden with your own eyes and a little bit of common sense can see this was a clear cover-up. And Jill Biden was certainly complicit in that cover-up. There's documentation, video evidence of her clearly shielding her husband away from the cameras. They were just on The View last week. She was saying everything is fine. She's still lying to the American people. She still thinks the American public are so stupid that they're going to believe her lies. And frankly, it's insulting, and she needs to answer for it. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline. President Trump was asked what he thought about Elon Musk's claim that the big, beautiful bill increases the budget deficit and undermines the work of DOJ. And the president didn't actually comment on those remarks. He just talked about the need to support the bill. So what does the president think about what Elon Musk said?
Well, the president is very proud of the one big beautiful bill, and he wants to see it pass. He wants the Senate to get to work on it and send it to his desk as quickly as possible. Of course, as you know, Elon Musk announced last night his departure as an official special government employee from the Trump administration. We thank him for his service. We thank him for getting DOJ off of the ground, and the efforts to cut waste, fraud, and abuse will continue.
So he doesn't have any comment about Musk saying it adds to the deficit and it undermines all his work?
The president commented on this. I commented on it. I told you that this bill saves $1.6 trillion according to the Council of Economic Advisors and the analyses that the president believes in. So he gave a comment. I gave a comment. Just because you don't like that comment doesn't mean it's not a comment. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. Back on trade, I know you said the White House is going to fight this ruling in court. Is the administration actively reviewing other avenues, other options to carry out the president's trade policy?
The president's trade policy will continue. We will comply with the court orders, but yes, the president has other legal authorities where he can implement tariffs. However, it does not dispute the fact that the president was right to declare a national emergency when it came to fentanyl and when it came to our crippling deficits and the lack of critical supply chains here at home. That is the reasoning for the president's tariffs. And the court didn't dispute those facts, by the way. And there have been other courts that have reaffirmed the president's position. In fact, a ruling in federal court earlier this month shows that the administration is in the right, said we will win on appeal. A federal district judge in Florida ruled that IEEPA, in fact, does grant the president the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs. And 20 years ago, I will add, they are not a court, the New York Times editorial board responded to the January 2005 trade deficit of $58.3 billion by writing an editorial entitled Dangerous Deficits. And since then, our trade deficit has more than doubled. The U.S. trade deficit in January totaled a whopping $131.4 billion. So people on both sides of the aisle, pundits, lawyers, legal scholars, politicians have all agreed that it is a national emergency, our trade deficits and our lack of critical supply chains here at home. It's just President Trump was the first president to actually act on it, to restore that wealth and that prosperity to the United States of America. And it's very unfortunate that the courts are now blocking his attempts to do that.
Has the administration then reached the point where you are actually asking your economic advisors to start reviewing other avenues to implement the president's trade policy, or do you want to just see this legal process take place for now?
We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We are doing both. Josh.
The Fed says the president met with the Fed chair earlier today. I'm wondering if you can give us any readout of that meeting. The Fed also says that they discussed the economy. I imagine the president might have shared views on rates as well, but what can you share with us?
I can share with you that we saw, the president and I both saw the statement that the Fed put out after the meeting. That statement is correct. However, the president did say that he believes the Fed chair is making a mistake by not lowering interest rates, which is putting us at an economic disadvantage to China and other countries. And the president's been very vocal about that, both publicly and now I can reveal privately as well.
Did he speak at all about his plans for that position, but whether he would seek to move Jay Powell out of that position or keep him in until his term ends?
No.
Okay.
Kristen.
Very quickly on the tariff question, you mentioned Section 232 earlier. Are you suggesting that you might sort of speed up some of the existing 232 investigations? Or are you talking potentially using 232 as a replacement power if this ruling doesn't go your way? Of course you hope it does.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just simply stating the fact that the president has other legal authorities he can use to implement tariffs, and the administration is willing to use those. As you know, we already have applied Section 232 tariffs on specific industries.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
President Trump said that he needed 1.5 to 2 weeks to determine whether or not he believed Vladimir Putin wanted peace. He has been in office now for 4 months. What does he believe is going to happen in the next 1.5 to 2 weeks that would change his opinion?
Well, it is my understanding and it is our hope that Russia and Ukraine will engage in direct talks and negotiations next week in Istanbul, and we believe that meeting is going to take place, and that is a meeting the president encouraged and urged for these two sides to come together and negotiate directly. And the president has been clear from the very beginning of this conflict that he wants to see this conflict solved on the negotiating table, not on the battlefield, and he's told that to both leaders, again, both publicly and privately. So hopefully next week it will move the ball forward in this.
Is the United States going to participate in those conversations?
We will let you know if the president plans to send a representative. I'm not tracking that at this time. Kelly in the back.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
I wanted to just clarify once and for all the Qatari jet, the sale, or the gift, because the Qatari government is asking the U.S. to clarify that the jet's pending transfer was initiated by the Trump administration. So is this something that the White House is going to do?
The amount of questions we've received, and we've been incredibly clear, and I have answered this, the president has answered this, the Department of Defense has answered this. This is a government-to-government gift transfer from the Qataris to the Department of Defense, to the United States Air Force. It is now in their hands, and for further details on where that stands, I would defer you to the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force. I have nothing more for you on that. Deanna.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions, one on the big beautiful bill, one on immigration.
Sure.
Yesterday, Trump said, we'll be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. Wondering if you could, share any specifics on that. And on immigration, do you know how many illegal migrants have taken Trump's voucher program so far and have deported themselves?
I believe it's in the thousands of those who have chosen the easier route of self-deportation, and we certainly encourage all illegal aliens who are present within our homeland to take that option. It's a much more pleasant option than being deported, and we will deport you if you're here illegally. That's our intention. As for the first question, what the president was speaking about is how this is a great bill. However, it has come as a result of a hard negotiation. It's difficult to get things done on Capitol Hill, but thanks to President Trump, this bill is moving in the right direction. And thanks to House Republicans and the leadership over there as well, who did a great job mediating both sides of the caucus to move this bill to the Senate. And now the president, again, has told his friends on the Senate side and is already engaged in those conversations to get that bill back to his desk as soon as possible. Sure.
Has this administration been briefed about the incident that happened in Gaza on Tuesday during the rollout of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution of aid to Palestinians there? And should there be a ceasefire, will this administration continue to rely on this foundation for the distribution of aid to civilians?
Are you referring, what incident are you referring to?
Tuesday,
When the aid was rolled out to Gaza for the first time in many months, and meals and food was given to hungry people thanks to President Trump. Yes, we were briefed on that plan. The president was the reason that aid went into Gaza, and he got the Israelis to support that plan. And I would add that the previous administration rejected such a plan to ensure that these starving and devastated people in the Gaza Strip were given humanitarian aid and assistance. And it was the previous administration that tried to build this pier, if you all remember it. It was brought to my attention this morning, and I thought that's a good point. Why don't I bring that up? Because there's been so much criticism. In fact, it was on the front page of a newspaper this morning about the criticism for this president having a humanitarian heart and giving people badly needed food and supplies. Nobody wanted to talk about how the previous administration failed in that endeavor. They built this pier that cost $230 million. It lasted about 20 days, and more than 60 U.S. service members were injured, as a part of this floating aid pier that did nothing for the people of Gaza. The president is opening up his humanitarian heart to get aid into the region while his team simultaneously negotiates a ceasefire and the return of all hostages. We are moving the ball forward in a positive direction for all people. The president wants to see peace for all people. Jasmine.
Thanks so much, Karoline. A notice investigation found that the Hallmark Maha Commission report that was released last week cites studies that appear to not exist. We know that because in part we reached out to some of the listed authors who said that they didn't write the studies cited. So I want to ask, does the White House have confidence that the information coming from HHS can be trusted?
Yes, we have complete confidence in Secretary Kennedy and his team at HHS. I understand there were some formatting issues with the Maha report that are being addressed, and the report will be updated, but it does not negate the substance of the report, which, as you know, is one of the most transformative health reports that has ever been released by the federal government and is backed on good science that has never been recognized by the federal government.
And a quick follow-up, can you talk about what tools or research goes into production of these kinds of reports? For instance, is it AI that's used to put together these reports now?
I can't speak to that. I would defer you to the Department of Health and Human Services. What I know is just what I told you. Lindsay.
Thank you, Caroline. Many small businesses that we've talked to since the tariffs have been in place have said what would really help them is a long-term plan so that they can catch up. In light of what's happened now, this trade war with the courts, how will that impact this 90-day window? Will you guys be adjusting that? And how can you help relieve some of these small businesses?
Well, I would say nobody understands the needs of business owners, and nobody has the backs of our small business community more than President Donald J. Trump. He believes, I've heard him talk about this with small business owners himself, that small businesses are truly the backbone of our American economy. And that's why the president is supporting the One Big Beautiful Bill. So for those you spoke to who are asking for a long-term plan, big tax cuts are coming their way. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime for their workers, more money in their pockets. Their bottom lines will be larger. They can pay their people more. Wages are going to go up. Inflation will continue to come down. We've already seen energy prices plummeting as a result of this president's economic and energy agenda that he has been implementing across the federal government, reducing burdensome regulation. All of that is good news for small business owners across the country. That's why they strongly support the president, and that's the Trump economic plan that is underway. And again, you're emphasizing, I believe, the need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the president wants to see that happen. Sure.
Will you still work within that 90-day window for these trade negotiations? Does that still stand?
Again, as far as we're concerned, our trade agenda is moving forward, and we've already heard from countries around the world today who will continue to negotiate in good faith with the United States so we can cut good trade deals on behalf of the American people, and we fully expect to win this case in court. Sure.
On Golden Dome, the president put out this number of $61 billion. How did he arrive at that? Is that the number it will cost to protect Canada, and is it negotiable, or where did it come from?
I can certainly ask the president, and I can check in with our research team, and we'll get you the facts on that number. But the Golden Dome is certainly a significant investment in our nation's national security and homeland security to protect Americans, all of you in this room, from future threats.
Any readout on, have the Canadians been talking in good faith about paying to be in it? I know they've expressed some interest.
Well, the president has certainly expressed to the Canadians how we are essentially subsidizing their national defense. He brought it up in his meeting with their new leader here, and as you know, we'll be traveling to Canada next month for the G7, so I expect that topic of discussion to come up on that trip as well. Sure.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. There was a May Day USA rally in Seattle that happened over the weekend that devolved into some protests and riots. The Seattle Mayor Harrell said that it was a far-right rally held here to provoke a reaction by promoting beliefs that are inherently opposed to our city's values, which he defined as LGBT values. I know the FBI is looking into this, but has the president reached out to the mayor at all, asked him to apologize for this, and is this something that the administration would consider an example of anti-Christian bias?
I'm not aware of that case. I know the FBI is looking into it, but I'm not aware of any phone calls the president may or may not have made to the mayor of that city.
And then on Doge, we know that Elon Musk is leaving. Do you have an updated leadership structure for who is leading the group? Is Russ Vought involved? And what is its new mission now, if any?
Well, the entire cabinet is involved, and I spoke to the president about it this morning, and the entire cabinet understands the need to cut government waste, fraud, and abuse, and each cabinet secretary at their respective agencies is committed to that. That's why they were working hand in hand with Elon Musk, and they'll continue to work with the respective Doge employees who have onboarded as political appointees at all of these agencies. So surely the mission of Doge will continue, and many Doge employees are now political appointees and employees of our government, and to the best of my knowledge, all of them intend to stay and continue this important work.
Is there a Doge leader taking the place of Mr. Musk?
Well, again, the Doge leaders are each and every member of the president's cabinet and the president himself, who is wholeheartedly committed to cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from our government. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. There's conflicting reports out of the Middle East right now. Saudi television network Al Arabia is saying that Israel and Hamas have agreed to a 60-day ceasefire. Sources with Hamas are saying that has not been agreed to. If and when that does happen, will we expect to hear something from President Trump announcing that?
As I said earlier, yes, indeed. If there is an announcement to be made, it will come from the White House, the president, myself, or Special Envoy Witkoff.
Caroline, one big beautiful bill. The president says he's not happy with all aspects of it. What changes would he like to see be made, and can this bill be both big and beautiful?
It is a one big beautiful bill, as the name rings true, and the president, as I said, is currently working with his friends in the Senate who have some recommendations for the bill. Those negotiations and discussions are continuing, but the president's ultimate priority is to get this bill back to his desk for signature. And the president's priorities in this bill are non-negotiable in terms of the tax priorities he wants to see and the large tax cuts in the border investments that are currently in this bill. He is not going to allow them to go away for the American people. Sure, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about, has the president spoken to any of these foreign leaders about these agreements that have been reached, specifically the case of the United Kingdom that already has an agreement in place after this decision of the court in New York?
Has the president talked to foreign leaders about what?
About the court decision in New York.
Which court decision in New York?
The trade court.
Oh, the trade court decision. He did speak to the leader of Japan this morning, and he said that was a very good call and a good discussion. And as I said, the president's cabinet, Secretary Lutnick, Secretary Bessent, and Ambassador Jameson Greer have all been in touch with their counterparts in countries around the world to let them know the United States will still be at the negotiating table, and we still expect countries around the world to treat us fairly. Again, I will just close by saying that how ridiculous it is that we have been ripped off, our middle class has been hollowed out, our manufacturing base has left and gone overseas, jobs have been offshored, and now no court did anything about that. No court did anything about hundreds of thousands of people being put out of work, about thousands of factories being closed down, about our deficits going to dangerous levels, as the New York Times has said. But now a court is trying to stop a president from trying to correct those wrongs of the past. And this administration will continue to do that. It's a promise the president made to the American people, and it's a promise they elected him on. We will win this battle in court, and the president will implement his America First trade policies. Thank you, everyone.
There's the U.S. Steel situation tomorrow at the speech.
I can tell you the president greatly looks forward to going to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he will discuss this historic deal and discuss American jobs and American steel, and we hope to see you all there. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Caroline.
I've told you that. That's why I'm saying respect the old journalists, man. We don't get this gray hair because of like playing in the playground. Just treat us with respect. Come on, you. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Respect. Have I ever disrespected you? It's annoying. This is annoying.
Hi, everybody. I intended to come out a little bit early, anticipating our friend Karoline closing. Hi, Tommy.
Just wanted to make sure your badge. I apologize.
Oh my God, my badge. It's like I'll never be able to function without my badge from this point forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, I feel so unofficial now. All righty. Yes, so our friend Karoline briefed today, which was terrific, and so here we are. Thank you, everybody. For everyone watching at home, welcome aboard. I appreciate it. We know that many streaming options. We know C-SPAN carries us live as well, and it's great to see all of you here. Do have a couple of announcements here right at the top. Today, the State Department notified Congress on our reorganization plan to build an America First State Department capable of meeting the challenges of the 21st century. The Secretary issued a statement on the notification as he said, over the past quarter century, the domestic operations of the State Department have grown exponentially, resulting in more bureaucracy, higher costs, and fewer results for the American people. Since my first day as Secretary, I've said that this department must move at the speed of relevancy, and in April announced a broad reorganization of the department to better achieve that goal. Today, we took the next step in that process by notifying Congress of how we plan to do that. Further, he said the plan submitted to Congress was the result of thoughtful and deliberative work by senior department leadership. We have taken into account feedback from lawmakers, bureaus, and long-serving employees. The reorganization plan will result in a more agile department, better equipped to promote America's interests and keep Americans safe across the world. In addition, over the last few days, Secretary Rubio has announced new visa policies that put America first. I'm sure none of you have any questions about those. The State Department is determined to protect Americans' right to free speech and to counter the malign influence and actions of the Chinese Communist Party. The bottom line, we are using and will continue to use every tool in our tool chest to make sure that we know who it is who wants to come into this country and if they should be allowed to come in. Every sovereign nation has a right to secure its borders and to make sure they know who is in their nation and if they are safe to be here. And finally, Secretary Rubio met with the North Macedonian Minister of Foreign Affairs today and his delegation. I had the pleasure of being at that meeting as well. The meeting underscored the strong relationship between the United States and North Macedonia and highlighted mutual interests in regional stability, economic cooperation, and NATO. They explored opportunities to expand the economic collaboration, which would include energy, trade, and investment. A fabulous delegation. It was a pleasure to meet them. And now it's a pleasure to see you guys again, even though I've met most of you, maybe not all of you, taking your question. Matt?
Yes.
I know you've got a few things on your mind.
Well, yes. So I assume you were being sarcastic when you said that I know none of you have any
Of course,
questions
yes.
about the
Sarcasm
visa policies.
is my favorite thing.
So anyway, I do have a couple questions,
Sure.
but I'll keep them brief. On the visa policy, specifically as it relates to China and the Chinese students. The statement that came out last night was, it wasn't very specific, shall we say, about what affiliations with the Chinese Communist Party and what critical areas of study would be applicants for visas under those would be, would be subjected to more scrutiny. So I'm wondering if there is an answer to what is the actual, Chinese Communist Party affiliation that would make you ineligible for a visa, or what are examples of the critical areas in which will be subject to
Well, since starting here at the State Department in January, I've been impressed with a number of things, most everything. But also learning about the nature of the visas, and I've said here regularly, many people watching around the world might not know, is that we don't give details about what our methods are regarding visas. Of course, everyone is vetted. I think if you've gone through the process, it's about filing for a visa, and then you have to have a meeting. And you do it in your home country, your consulate, your embassy, and that's the process. So there is a vetting, there always has been. What we don't discuss, again, because of privacy issues, but also because it's different for each person, that there are a series of dynamics that can be applied, questions that can be asked, issues looked at, and we use every tool that we have to vet and to make sure we know who's coming in. In this particular case, the United States is putting America first by beginning to revoke visas of Chinese students as warranted, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party, as you mentioned, Matt, or studying in critical fields, and enhancing scrutiny of visas for all Chinese nationals, including Hong Kong passport holders. I will not be getting into the details, not only of what the details are regarding the scrutiny and the methods regarding the visa itself, but also when it comes to critical fields. I was rather pleased, having seen very often announcements that don't really give any information, and there's reasons for that, for national security, because there's negotiations, it's diplomatic, et cetera, or giving away the nature of how we choose to do things might give up our hand and make certain things less effective. In this case, when we think of critical fields, which is obviously a very specific phrase, we think about national security, the nature of how we keep America safe and secure and more prosperous. And it is important to have, I think, a broad base, because that could mean something different to many people. It could mean many things. And this is going to be up to the people making the decisions. And I think that that's in the framework of what we've discussed regarding the visa actions as well, when it comes to keeping America safe. The United States, I further can say here, will not tolerate the CCP's exploitation of U.S. universities or theft of U.S. research, intellectual property, or technologies to grow its military power, conduct intelligence collection, or repress voices of opposition. The Trump administration is focused on protecting our nation and our citizens by upholding our national security and public safety through our visa process, obviously very openly and transparently applied by Secretary Marco Rubio. Every visa adjudication is a national security decision, every single one of them. Every prospective traveler to the United States undergoes interagency security vetting. Prohibiting entry to the United States by those who might pose a threat to U.S. national security or public safety is key to protecting U.S. citizens at home. So we've experienced this through these last several weeks. It is something that is at the heart and really at the front line of protecting the country. And we're taking it seriously, and we're being open about the nature of what's happening in this particular instance.
Can I just ask that last bit that you just said, which was not in the statement last night, and is a little bit more specific about?
About the nature of the theft of certain things.
Yes,
Well, we again, and as reporters here all, and curious people, you know the nature of what China has been doing about, with technology, right? Stealing information, intellectual property, U.S. research, copyrights, et cetera. This is not new or confusing, and this is one way that we certainly can try to mitigate that issue. Yes, Andrea Mitchell.
One follow-up on that, and then I'm going to ask you
Of
about
course.
Hamas and Gaza and Israel.
Certainly.
Is there any reevaluation of TikTok and its vulnerabilities as was defined by the previous administration as dangerous for national security reasons? Does the White House, does the administration have any reevaluation of TikTok in this context as you're cracking down on Chinese
I would say you'd
intelligence
have to send that question, ask that of the White House. What we do know, though, of course, is that we're serious about Chinese intervention here, if you will, the nature of what's driving, of course, this new visa vetting dynamic. But for that specifically, I know the president has spoke on it. You'll need to ask the White House.
And let me ask you about
Yes.
the possibility of a tentative acceptance by Israel of a ceasefire.
Could we, let me come back to you on that. I think many of you also have the visa questions, correct? Are we dealing, let's stick with visas, because there's many different issues at hand, not just this one regarding China. So Daphne. Yeah, we'll get to Gaza after that, yes.
Thank you. There are hundreds of thousands of Chinese students currently in the U.S. What proportion does the State Department expect will face visa revocations?
Oh, I can't answer that at all. I mean, one of the things we also, even if I was inclined to want to answer, is we're not going to speculate on where this would go. A lot of this clearly is, perhaps has not been done before, as we look at this dynamic and make a determination of exactly what's been happening in this country. A great deal of what President Trump has done and what Secretary Rubio is doing is beginning to look at certain things, whether it's foreign aid, the nature of visas, how people are getting here, what's happening at the universities, the things we've seen that we don't like that have emerged from them. But I certainly would not hazard to suggest that the numbers matter. What the story is here is that the issue of being serious about safety for the country matters, and we're going to look at that at every single front. So I think it's less about numbers and more about the fact that we're keeping America safe and taking the actions that we need to do that.
At the tail end of Trump's first administration, the U.S. revoked visas for more than 1,000 Chinese students and researchers that were deemed security risks. Should we expect the actions that Secretary Rubio announced yesterday to exceed those first-term measures?
You love the numbers. She loves the numbers. Daphne from Reuters. How many originally did you say Chinese students were here?
The hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands. And so you've provided a number of about 1,000, which I'm not quite sure how that number even would have been a number that you could rely on, because Consular Affairs does not provide numbers. We don't discuss visas that are issued, visas that are removed, things that are revoked. Those are numbers that are not shared, are not provided, and I would suggest using caution if someone has given you a number like that. I have no idea what the numbers will be. What I do know is that the people who are deemed to be a threat to the country or a problem now will be vetted again or looked at seriously, and Americans will be safer. That's the story here.
And then just on the visa restriction policy announced yesterday over the censoring of Americans, can you provide any specific examples of what actions prompted the U.S. to institute this policy? And when might we expect any visa restrictions to be implemented?
In a case like this, you're looking at a policy that is a reflection of what the Trump administration and the American people care about, which is the idea of Americans being censored. We experienced this through COVID, the nature of our ability to be able to speak our minds. And while I won't give you, or can give you, or would give you specifics about how this particular restriction would be approached, which is not done in a blanket way, right? That there's individuals who are flagged or who are seen as being a participant in some aspect of the censorship of Americans. What I can say is that all of what you see emanating from the Trump administration and the State Department is a reflection of the policy of this administration and what the American people want and expect when it comes to what their futures are going to hold. Again, on visas,
Yes.
Hold on, please.
Still on visas.
Still on visas. One moment. I'll be back with you. Yes.
One on the cable that went on Tuesday, it said they expected this expanded social media vetting guidance for visa applicants to go out in the coming days. Are you still tracking that timeline, and give us any
Yes.
guidance on what that is going
Yes,
to
I
look like?
can't give you a specific timeline, but there will be more information. What I can say is that, in general, because that was an internal communication that was leaked. At the same time, we have confirmed that the details are accurate. Also, the Trump administration is focused on protecting our nation and our citizens by upholding the highest standards of national security and public safety through the visa process specifically. Every adjudication, as I noted to you, is a national security decision. And a visa, as a reminder, is not a privilege. It's a privilege, it's not a right, it's not a birthright, it's not something that you're owed, no matter where you come from. Every prospective traveler to the United States undergoes interagency security vetting. And this is important with these conversations because it seems like only certain groups are facing vetting with visas. Every single person does. So I would say that, yes, you're going to get more information. And this is, as a result, not an interminable kind of end. There is an end point. And it should be rather quick. as consulates and embassies make adjustments when it comes to how they handle
Can we
visas.
expect the appointments to open back up immediately after that guidance goes out to posts?
Well, one thing I can tell you, a few things I can say is people can still make their application, do their regular steps, but it's a two-step process, right? You apply, and then you have to get an appointment to meet with people, to talk with them. Unlike often with the passport or something, there's a very specific process. So right now, there might be some delay, and what I'm told to encourage people to do is to regularly check to see when those spaces open. So as opposed to, let me just say, I would not be recommending that if this was going to be weeks or months. So if you've applied for a visa and you want to, please do. Then if you're not getting an appointment, there's this online system, you continually recheck to see when those spots might open. I can't tell you immediately after some, indeterminate moment of an action, but I can tell you that it's something that would happen perhaps sooner than later.
And then one more. On Harvard, my understanding is you are now reviewing all of the visas of Harvard-affiliated visa holders, not just students. Can you confirm that? And why is this broader review taking place? Do you expect it to impact medical professionals, for example, professors at the university?
I hesitate only because all of this is regarding visas and the nature of our mission and the approach that we take regarding who is being scrutinized and how we're going to approach. So we're going to put that off. I think we probably will have a bit more on that next week, perhaps, but we'll put that off now. But what I can say clearly with all of the news over the last 48 hours is that the visa process is a key component of keeping the country safe. It is not targeted at certain only specific individuals. This is an overarching national security action, and we are acting quickly. Obviously, we're a nation that loves people coming here the legal way, and we want to help facilitate that, but not at our own risk. Sean.
Sure. More on the visas. If you don't mind me emphasizing, as Daphne and Matt asked you, on the language, the Secretary's statement yesterday aggressively revoked visas for Chinese students, including those with connections. It's not specific. He's not saying specifically those with connections. So, there are 277,000 Chinese students in the United States. Should all of them feel that they're at some risk of having their visas revoked?
I think everyone who's here on a visa has to recognize, certainly is what they've seen over the last few months, that America takes their visas seriously, that vetting is not a one-time process, it's continuing. And that if things happen, if you get arrested, if there's some kind of an issue, it's probably going to be seen at some point. But I do think that with this particular dynamic, it's clear that there's an interest in making sure that those who are here from China on a visa understand that we are taking our national security seriously, and we are looking at their visas, and if everything's fine, terrific. But that will be a vetting that certainly continues and is important, clearly, to the administration.
And a bit broader, you said if everything's fine, you're welcome. More broadly, all these things that are going on with the student visas, with the vetting, with the suspension for now of new appointments. Is it still a priority for the administration to encourage students to come to the United States? They have other options. It's been said that Hong Kong, for example, is now saying students at Harvard, doctoral students, have a fast track to go there. Is there any concern that the U.S. is losing a competition? After all, there's $50 billion into the economy from international students.
Well, people come here because this is where you start new lives, where you have every opportunity in the world. There's a reason why people come here. It's because of what the country represents. Yes, the excellence of our schools, and we want to keep it that way. We want parents who send their children, whether they be from a different country or America, to an American university, that they can recognize their child when that child returns home. And that child actually has skills and an education that can improve their future, that can get them a job, that can help facilitate the dreams that they've had, as opposed to political indoctrination or the idea of just activism or a certain political framework that they move out with. This should be an education that is literally liberal. The idea that you learn things that help facilitate your life no matter where you come from, who you are, if you're a Jew or a non-believer or an atheist or black or white or a woman. We've been through this in this country for the last 2 to 3 generations still. And our focus is making sure that everyone who does want to send their child to a school in this country can do so knowing that they're going to be safe, they're going to be able to get into a building and not held hostage in a library because it's been occupied, or that they're going to be able to actually learn things that you're paying that kind of money for. So yes, it not only should encourage more people, for those who are already here, it's certainly an important dynamic for believing and understanding that your child's going to be safe and that you're going to get something that you've paid for, more than a social activist who lives in your basement.
Can I switch to the Middle East, or is there anybody else?
Well, yeah, you know, it's an unusual day for me, and time flies, doesn't it? Well, you know, so many people, too many people, Matt. So we've talked a great deal about the visas. And Gaza, you know? All right. We had Gaza. Where is she? There she is in the blue jacket. You'll be second. We'll go to Andrea on Gaza, and then we'll go into the back. Yes.
I'd like to ask you about the reported acceptance by Israel of a ceasefire for Gaza. What you can fill in about that? Does it include expanding food deliveries? Does it include the south as well as the north? And do you know whether Hamas has signed on to this? And is Qatar or Oman?
Well, we know there's been a proposal put forward that seems to be promising. We are unaware of Hamas accepting it, but we do believe that it has some significant promise. We would, of course, as you might imagine, it's been a goal of the administration to get all the hostages out, certainly the bodies that are being held. And so, and I believe that Karoline addressed this too, I think, earlier. Yes, so there is some optimism, some important optimism, but the aspect regarding Hamas and its position is unknown at this point. But I think that there's some optimism regarding what has been proposed.
Do you know if this came from Mr. Witkoff and Dermer and the other envoys who were here from Israel this week?
Well, I believe that certainly Special Envoy Witkoff, as he's been involved in most issues and our successes, but at this point, we're still waiting to get some kind of a final point put on that. Which would allow even more humanitarian aid to move in, and certainly the return of hostages and bodies. This is what we continue, always are working on, and we're excited that this might be a good development. All right, Nadia.
Thank you. I'm following up on Gaza again. You know, Karoline just said now actually that both the Israelis and agreed to it, and they're waiting for.
Yes, that's correct. So this is when we say this in optimism, it means Israel's agreed. All right, so we're in a very good position, I think.
But as you know, the president said he wants to see an end to this war. Is this any U.S. guarantee that actually they're going to discuss the end of the war after the 60-day ceasefire? Because every time they reach that stop, and the ceasefire collapse is because.
Well, the ceasefires don't collapse. Ceasefires are ignored by Hamas, and they're broken by Hamas. They don't just collapse under their weight. Every moment, though, even without a ceasefire and without agreements like this, there's the constant effort to get this heinous situation to end, and not just for the moment, not for the 60 days or 6 months. That is the hallmark of President Trump's vision. And what the secretaries worked for, what our special envoys have worked for. Special Envoy Witkoff could be, just like President Trump, enjoying a very comfortable life somewhere else. But these are men and women who've made this kind of commitment. So I would say that obviously the end goal is an end. But ending the murders, the slaughter, the carnage, and getting people what they need is key. And that, of course, you can't. It's different, and I think Zelensky had noted this as well, right? I mean, you can't talk about peace as you're being shot at and killed. I mean, it's one thing has to be able to lead to the other. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. All right. Now, in the blue, I've skipped you off, and are you on this? Par-
I want to go back to the visa.
Visa. All right, let's get one more question regarding Gaza. And yes, in Middle East. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yes, you go ahead first. We won't go right back. We won't go to visas. We've spent a great deal of time on that. Go ahead.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I got a Gaza visa question rolled into one, so it's jackpot. The Mahmoud Khalil case, the federal district judge ruling yesterday that while he found that Khalil gave insufficient responses to allegations that he omitted key information from his application, the judge also ruled that Secretary Rubio's determination that Khalil's activities would have an adverse impact on American foreign policy were unconstitutionally vague. Does the secretary have a reaction to that, number one? And number two, does it change the position or the tactic going forward in these
Yeah,
types
so
of cases?
again, let's just take that back for next week. I mean, I do want to get a direct response for you for that, but I literally have to go in a few minutes. And normally I would stay for as long as I could, but there's something I can't avoid. Yes, yes. All right, we'll go to Russia, Ukraine. Yes? All right.
Obviously, the Secretary connected with his counterpart in Russia yesterday. In their call, did Mr. Lavrov give Secretary Rubio any indication of whether and when this peace memorandum that Russia promised would materialize? President Zelensky is saying nobody has seen it, and Secretary Rubio has said it's an important indicator of how serious Russia is about continuing negotiations. So I'm wondering if you have an update.
Yes, again, we've said multiple times that we're going to judge Russia based not on what they say, but on what they do. And right now what's happening is not good, right? You've heard that from the president. What I can tell you is Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in fact, did speak with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. Secretary Rubio welcomed, as we all did, the exchange of 1,000 for 1,000 prisoners, which happened over the weekend. That was arranged, I believe, while we were in Istanbul, Turkey. The secretary reiterated President Trump's calls for constructive, good faith dialogue with Ukraine as the only path forward ending the war. So that's what we're saying about the call itself, and we'll have to kind of leave that there.
On the question of the good faith dialogue,
Sure.
does the Secretary believe that what the Russians have offered in terms of these direct talks with the Ukrainians in Istanbul, is that being offered in good faith? We understand it's the same delegation that was dispatched last time. Is this actually going to move the ball forward, or is it a rehashing?
Right. Well, that's kind of, I think, at the heart of the current diplomatic dialogues and negotiations. And I won't characterize the secretary's point of view or his approach. I think what he reiterated after this call, I think, speaks for itself. That he reiterated President Trump's calls for constructive, good faith dialogue as the only way to end the war. So that was repeated in that call, and I think that speaks to the Secretary's position. All right, yes, sir, go ahead.
May I just follow up on that? Can this good faith dialogue continue alongside military offensive?
You've got to repeat that first part. This what?
Can this good faith dialogue can this continue alongside military offensive?
Well, obviously, we're going to find that out. Again, we're judging, and I think the president has judged Putin based on the nature of what was clearly extremely frustrating to him regarding the killing of civilians while talks are going on for a ceasefire. And that's a judgment that's going to come from the leaders of this country, the leaders, frankly, of the free world, of whether or not that's possible. And we're going to have to take that moment by moment in this case, I think.
Are you guys involved into the second part of Istanbul talks? Are you part of it?
I'm not going to go into that. I have nothing to preview for you on that. So yes, sir, go ahead.
On Iran, the president yesterday said that the deal with Iran could happen in the next couple of weeks. The Iranian foreign minister today on X said that media are speculating about an imminent agreement, but he's not sure we are there yet. Any reaction to what he said?
Well, people are speculating because maybe somebody goes on radio and starts to speculate and starts to talk and starts to gossip. We don't do that. We've learned that discussing the details of something as sensitive as peace negotiations or a ceasefire does not help. It might be more interesting radio, but that's not how we're operating. It's not how serious agreements benefit. So I'm not going to comment on that. What I do know is that every report after our meetings is that it's that they've gone well and that progress has been made. Iran is at the table, and progress has been made based on the lines of President Trump, what his lines are, that there will never be a nuclear weapon, that there will not be enrichment. And we make progress every single meeting. And that, unfortunately, in our very strange short day, that is going to be it today. I know there's more, and of course, I'll see you soon, and you also know how to reach all of us. All right, thank you, everybody. That really is it. Thank you, appreciate it. Have a great